can see you.
Welcome in or welcome back. Yeah, it's been a minute. Um, well, by minute I mean months. Uh, there's very good reasons for that, and a lot of them are not necessarily personal, but outside of the scope or purview of this channel, um, and have everything to do with my other channel. Well, the writing in general, but that's not why this channel exists. The video itself will be in collaboration with that other channel, just so that you do have a venue to see where I've been um, working, what the time's been spent on. But one of the things that came up and comes up often in our community, that being the indie community, is the use of AI. Um, this is a conversation that does need to happen. And as pointed out through other conversations with other authors, it needs to happen now, not 5 years from now. Um, because it's routinely being brought up, or as we find with submissions, for instance, that uh, a lot of publishers on any level, now, I mean, not just through traditional publishing, but as you're trying to grow your name, your image, whatever it is that you're trying to grow, um, you have to submit something to somewhere in order to get awards, publishing in anthologies, whatever. I mean, I know I'm really simplifying that, but there's so many avenues uh, to do these kinds of things, and it's impossible it's impossible to understand what to do with the guidelines that a lot of these places offer. And that's what this video is going to be about specifically. Um, yeah, it's going to be a longer video, and I think that's okay. It doesn't do much for the channel metrics. YouTube algorithms love the shorter videos, but we've tossed that to the wind since day one anyway. And we spent a lot of time, I mean, really diving into the subject matter that we dive into. And this is going to be no different. I really, really need your feedback on this. I need you, subscribe would be great, but definitely share the video with your author friends. And I know a lot of the subscribers to this channel are authors themselves. And I'm sure that you've run into this problem. But I know that you know other authors as well, or even any creative outlet or medium is up against this same crunch right now, and maybe that could help them too. But more than anything, please give me your comments down below after watching the video. Let me know if there's anything else that you want to see covered, for one. But maybe I missed something in going through this. I mean, did reach out to a few other authors just to get their input, so the video itself doesn't just cover my opinions on things. It's kind of well, it is a collaborative effort. I mean, as you're gonna see, but yeah. All right, well, let's just dive right into that then. Somewhere right now, there's a writer sitting in front of a finished manuscript. She has never let an AI write a single word of it. Every sentence is hers. And she is terrified. Not of the blank page, of the submission form. Because the magazine she wants to send this story to has a line in its guidelines saying it won't accept work that was edited or modified by AI. And she used spell check. She ran it through a grammar checker to catch the typos her tired eyes missed, and now she's staring at that sentence, wondering if the thing she's done 1,000 times, the thing writers have done since word processors existed, just quietly disqualified her. So she does something strange. She takes her own writing, her human writing, and she runs it back through an AI, not to change it, to check it, to make sure it doesn't sound too much like a machine wrote it. She is using AI to prove she didn't use AI. If that sounds insane, it's because it is. And it is happening all over the indie writing world right now. Because the rules everyone is trying to follow are written so broadly that, read literally, Microsoft Word makes you a cheater. I want to fix that, not by telling you what to think, by showing you where the line actually is. Because it turns out there is one. It's clearer than you've been led to believe, and you are probably already standing on the right side of it. My whole argument comes down to 4 words: AI never writes blind. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the first thing nobody tells you: your confusion is not a personal failing. The rules really are that vague. Go read the AI policies at a dozen fiction markets, and they don't agree on anything. Some ban work that was generated by AI, which is narrow and clear and means exactly what you think. Don't have the machine write your story. But others ban work that was written, developed, or assisted by AI. Some ban editing, some ban modifying, and a few ban AI in any form at any stage, which is a sentence with no bottom to it. Think about what assisted actually covers. A grammar checker assists. The editor pane built into your word processor assists. The spell checker that's shipped in every writing program for 30 years assists. Take that word literally, and the writer sweating over her form is taking it literally, and there is no such thing as a compliant manuscript, because every writer alive has used a tool. And here's the part that should make you feel less alone and more annoyed at the same time. 2 magazines can both say no AI in a database and mean opposite things. One means don't let a chatbot write it, the other means don't touch a grammar tool. Same 2 words, opposite rules. And the only way to tell them apart is to read the actual guidelines slowly and notice which verb they choose, because the verb is the whole thing. Now, we have done this before, all of us, over and over. When the pocket calculator showed up, teachers swore we'd never carry one anywhere we went. Photographers said Photoshop was cheating. Musicians said the same about autotune and the drum machine. Somebody at some point was certain the word processor itself would rot real writing. Every one of those tools arrived wearing the word cheating, and every one of them quietly became something nobody flags anymore. The AI conversation is loud, but the shape of it is old. And not every market is confused about this. There are magazines that draw the line cleanly. One says in writing that stories drafted using spell check and grammar check are fine, and only generated text is out. That's a policy written by someone who understands what writers actually do. But it's the exception, and the writer trying to submit this month has to survive all of them at once. So, why are the rules so blunt? Because something real happened, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't. In early 2023, one of the most respected science fiction magazines in the world, one that had kept its doors open to new writers for 17 years, shut off submissions completely. Not for a website upgrade, because it was drowning. In a single month, the editor was getting hundreds of machine written stories, and the number was doubling. He said it plainly: the real submissions and the fake ones were arriving at nearly the same rate, and the fake ones were winning on volume. Where did they come from? Not from writers. From a side hustle economy. The make money while you sleep, write a book with a chatbot crowd, selling passive income to people who had never read the magazines they were spamming. The stories were bad, but there were so many of them that a small editorial team simply couldn't keep up. And the damage didn't stop at the slush pile. The same flood hit the review side. Reviews that paste the book's back cover copy into generic compliments and clearly never opened the book. If you've published anything, you've probably seen one on your own title. So when a magazine writes a harsh, sweeping no AI of any kind clause, I want you to understand something. They are not doing it to punish you. They got buried, and a blunt rule was the fastest wall they could build. The blunt rule is the problem. The reason for it is completely legitimate. Both of those are true, and if this video only told you the second one, I'd be lying to you. Okay, the flood is real, so why not just detect the AI and reject it? Run every submission through one of those checkers, flag the fakes, done. Because the checkers don't work. And I don't mean a little unreliable. There's peer reviewed research out of Stanford showing that when you feed these detectors writing by people who speak English as a second language, the tools flag it as AI generated most of the time. The majority of the time, and on the real share of those, every detector agreed, confidently, unanimously, wrong. Meanwhile, on native English writing, they mostly got it right. So the tool isn't detecting machines, it's detecting a certain kind of clean, slightly formal, non idiomatic English and punishing the humans who write that way. It gets worse. The same tools flag neurodivergent writers at higher rates, autistic writers, writers with ADHD, dyslexic writers, because they sometimes lean on repeated phrasing and structure, and the detector reads consistency as machinery. Think about who that sweeps up in a community that is full of exactly these people. And here's the part that should end the argument. The editors on the strictest side of this debate already know. The editor of that magazine that shut down its submissions has said more than once that the detectors aren't reliable enough to use. Another major market put out a statement saying they will not use AI detection tools at any point in their process. That instead, if they suspect a story, they'll talk to the author directly. The people with the most reason to want a magic detector button have looked at the button and refused to press it. Which brings us back to that writer from the beginning, the one scrubbing her own voice out of her own story so a machine won't mistake her for a machine. Now you understand why. She's not paranoid. She's responding rationally to a system trying to police something it cannot measure. And the cost of that system isn't caught cheaters, it's honest writers sanding the humanity off their own prose to survive a scan. Now I have to slow down, because up to this point I've been defending AI tools, and I don't want you to think that's the whole story. There is an objection to AI in writing that is serious and legitimate, and has nothing to do with your spell check. If I skipped it, this video wouldn't be honest. It's about consent. These models didn't learn to write out of nowhere. They learned by reading, and a lot of what they read was books, authors' books, often without asking, and often without paying. In 2025, one of the major AI companies agreed to pay $1.5 billion to settle a lawsuit from authors whose books have been pirated, downloaded from shadow libraries to train its model. That is the largest copyright settlement in the history of the United States, and it happened because the company took the work without permission. The courts are still drawing the fine line. A judge ruled that training a model on books you bought legally can be fair use, but that pirating them to do is not. And a separate case is now testing whether the summaries these chatbots produce of real novels might themselves infringe. This is live, it's being decided right now. So here's what I want you to hold on to. When another author tells you they won't touch AI, listen for which objection they're making. Because I don't want a machine writing my dialogue, and I don't want my life's work strip mined to build the machine are two completely different statements. The first is a craft choice, the second is about theft. You can use a grammar checker and still be furious about the training data. Those positions don't contradict each other at all. A lot of the anger in this community that gets aimed at the tool is really about how the tool was built. That anger has earned its place, and I'm not going to talk you out of it. Neither should anyone else. Alright, we've named the confusion, the flood, the detector problem, and the real ethical objection. Now the thing I actually came here to give you, the line. Because here's what almost nobody tells the writer in the middle. That instinct you already have that the story has come from you, but the tool that helps you fix a typo or think through a plot problem is just a tool. That instinct is not a rationalization you're using to feel okay. It is the actual standard. It's written down by the institutions that matter most to you. Let me show you four of them. The Authors Guild, the oldest and largest writers' organization in the country, built a certification called Human Authored. When they defined what qualifies, they allowed a small amount of AI for grammar and spell check. They said using AI for research or for brainstorming does not disqualify your book, as long as the writing itself came from you. Only generated text disqualifies. The line they drew is your line, exactly. Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing, the platform most of you publish through. When you upload a book, they ask you one question: does this contain AI generated content? And they define it for you. If the AI produced the text, that's AI generated, and you disclose it. If you wrote the text and used AI to edit, refine, check grammar, or brainstorm, that's AI assisted, and there is nothing to disclose. Same line. It's already sitting in the upload form you've checked a dozen times. The United States Copyright Office. This is the big one because it's the law. Their position is that human authorship is the bedrock of copyright. A book generated entirely by AI can't be copyrighted at all. But, and this is the part that should change how you feel, using AI as a tool to help your creative process does not sink your copyright. Only the parts a human made are protected. But those parts are protected, which means the line between generating and assisting isn't just etiquette. It's the line that decides whether you can own your own book. And the organization built for people exactly like you, the Alliance of Independent Authors, goes one step further. They don't just tell you where the line is, they tell you to draw your own version of it in public on your website. Write your AI policy. Say what you do and don't do. Because in a market full of anxiety, the writer who states her position plainly is the one readers learn to trust. Four institutions: the biggest writers guild, the biggest retailer, the copyright authority itself, and the org built for indies. They do not agree on much. They agree on this: generated text is the thing. Your spell check is not. And if you want the oldest proof that this line was always here, publishing has put an author's name on books that author didn't write every word of for as long as publishing has existed. Celebrity memoirs, ghostwritten series, the little with on a cover. Nobody demands a disclosure label on those because we've always understood that authorship is about whose vision it is, whose judgment shaped it, not whose fingers hit which keys. Human authorship was never as pure as the panic wants you to believe. The line was always about direction, not typing. AI never writes blind. The moment the human is steering the work, making the calls, writing the actual words, you are on the right side of every line that matters. You were never in the gray zone. You just hadn't been shown the map. There's one voice in this conversation that almost never gets asked, and it's the most important one: the reader. You can win every argument about policy and still lose if the person buying your book recoils. So, do readers care? The honest answer from the actual survey data is less than the internet would have you believe. Most readers are pragmatic. A clear majority say they'd read a book that used AI assistance if the book is good, and only a small slice say they'd refuse outright. It shifts by genre. Nonfiction readers are the most relaxed, literary and romance readers the most skeptical, but the pattern holds. The deciding factor isn't the tool, it's whether the book delivers. But I promised you honesty. So here's the uncomfortable part. There's research showing something called a transparency penalty. When you tell readers AI was involved, their trust in you can dip, even when the writing is exactly as good, even when nothing about the book changed except the label. So disclosure isn't free, it has a cost. And I'm telling you not to talk you out of being honest, but because pretending it's costless is exactly the kind of easy answer this whole video is against. The move isn't to hide it. The move is to frame it, to say clearly what you did and didn't do, so the reader isn't left to imagine the worst. And one more, because this channel cares about audio, when you ask readers about narration, they are not subtle. The overwhelming majority still want a human voice reading them the book. Fewer than 1 in 100 prefer an AI narrator. So if you're weighing whether to let a synthetic voice read your work to save you some money, know that your listeners have already voted, and they voted for a person. Let's make this useful. You've got a finished book or a story you want to send out, and you want to stop being afraid. Here's what to actually do. First, settle your position once and apply it the same everywhere. The worst outcome is this whole mess isn't using AI or not using it. It's answering the question differently at different places because the wording spooked you or one rejection stung. Editors and agents talk. An inconsistent record is the one thing you can't walk back. So decide where your line is in a calm hour and then hold it on every form. Second, know your follow-up answer. Before you tick any box, ask yourself, if an editor emailed me and said walk me through how you revised this, would my honest answer match what I just checked? If it does, you're solid. If it doesn't, you've just found the thing to fix. Third, when a guideline is vague, just ask. Email the market and ask plainly whether their policy counts spell check or a grammar tool. It isn't annoying, it's the responsible move. And their answer forces them to define a line they left fuzzy. You are allowed to make them do that. Fourth, publish your own AI policy. One honest paragraph on your website. Here's what I use for AI, here's what I never use it for. It turns the thing you're afraid of into the thing that makes you look like a professional who has thought through this before. Because you have. Fifth, and this one's a gift, especially if you're chasing a first credential, keep a clean room option. Write something, even something short, with zero machine involvement at any stage. A short story you can send to literally any market with no disclosure question to sweat and no follow-up to fear. It's cheap to do a short length and it proves the exact thing a skeptical editor wants proven. And last, keep a record. For each project, a simple note of what you originated, what you directed, and what a tool touched. You cannot reconstruct that after the fact, and the one time you need it, you'll be very glad it exists. And since this entire video is about being honest, let me be honest with you. I used AI to build it. Not to write my opinions, those are mine. And I've been chewing on them for months. But to gather the research, check the policies, pull the survey numbers, and help me organize the argument you just heard. I directed it, I checked it, I wrote the words I'm saying to you now. And I'm not going to stand here preaching AI never writes blind while pretending I did all of this in a cabin with a typewriter. Because that would be exactly the dishonesty I'm asking you to avoid. That is what assisted looks like. The judgment is mine. The tool helped me carry the load. That's the line, and I'm standing on the right side of it, out loud. So here's where we land. The confusion you walked in with was real, but it was never yours to carry. The rules are vague because the people who wrote them got buried, not because you did something wrong. The detectors don't work, and the people who'd most like them to have said so. The real objection, the one about consent and training data, deserves your respect and your anger, and it's a different fight than the one about your spell check. And the line you were so afraid of? The biggest names in this whole industry already drew it, in the same place, and you were standing on the right side the entire time. AI never writes blind. The story is yours, the judgment is yours, the tools are just tools, and now you know exactly where they stop. If you've got an AI policy of your own, put it in the comments. One line, what do you do and what you don't do? I read them. Subscribe if you want the next one, and I'll see you back in the archive. Okay, so we've gotten through the script part of that, and if you're still here, I really appreciate it. There's a few things that I wanted to follow up with, and one of them is your opinions. Yes, the comments are important. The subscribe really helps the channel, and what we've been trying to do here, but it doesn't answer the silence from the channel over the last few months. And a lot of that it's been multi-fronted. Um, and different conversations about the same thing. Hang on, I gotta organize my thoughts because there's a few things and I don't want this video to go another hour. First and foremost, um, part of the reason it was hard to get back here was finding the time to read another book. And that's got nothing to do with not wanting to read another book. It's got everything to do with kind of learning how this process goes in the indie community. And Amazon is always the first step for everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's probably the cheapest, the most accessible, and in a lot of ways, the quickest to get something off the ground. But once you do, you realize that you're kind of limited to just that platform. Now, I know this isn't necessarily an AI centered conversation following a fully scripted AI video, but part of the conversations that I've had with other authors is that there doesn't seem to be any one, you know, specific guideline. They're out there, don't get me wrong, about how to do things in the indie world as far as getting your writing out of your head and out into the world. So let me retrace. They are out there. It's just that a lot of us haven't found that perfect video. And I'm not saying that this one will be or that any follow-ups might be, but that's where the community itself comes in, and following up. Hitting like helps here, but respond to it in any way that you can. And this is where it kind of bleeds into the whole AI discussion too, is because everybody's got a stance on it one way or another. And the best thing to do in response, whether you agree or disagree with anything that I said, in whole or partially, um, make your own video. Make your own video, tag either one of my channels or both of them if you want to in the collab, the collaboration thing on YouTube. And I will give you my complete consent to do that right now, because I think that's the best way to keep this conversation rolling in the community, on a grand scale where more and more people will be invited to it. I'll call you out by name, Bish, but one of the best things that I got out of our conversation about this was that this is something that needs to happen right now. I know that I mentioned that briefly in the video, but it does need to happen now, not 5 years from now, not 10 years down the road. We need to have this conversation in this moment. And I can't be the only one saying anything about it. And again, I know I'm not, but my algorithm doesn't feed me. Where do you stand on AI videos? And yours probably doesn't either. That's why this is probably the best venue for me to voice those opinions, because this is directly to the authors themselves. And I know that you guys have your stances. So by all means, make a video, even if it's with your phone. Tag the channels, either one of them or both, like I said, as collab, and you already have my consent to do so. Moving on from that, what I really wanted to state too is that, hang on. Okay, so I mentioned Amazon. Now you're going to find that as you try to expand, you try to get into sales, Amazon kind of hampers you outside of that platform. And I know that there's others, but I'm just watching other people's videos over I don't know, the winter into spring, um, Ingram Spark came up. Now, it it's going to cost a little more money to do this, you know, publish through that. But if you can afford it, if you can do it, it's the best thing that you're going to do for yourself in the indie community. And the reason I say that is because it opens up so many more doors for getting your work out there. So you publish on Amazon, you're on Amazon exclusively. If a bookstore wants it, they can purchase it from Amazon, but they're not getting the same discount that they could through other platforms such as Ingram Spark. And the discounts are what can make or break bulk purchases through mass distributions of the physical copies of the book. I think Amazon's discount policy is like 30 to 35%, whereas Ingram Spark fires that all the way up to the industry norm at 55%. If I had to choose between the two, I think that's a no brainer. So, where this is important is, does Walmart consider stocking your book? You have to give them the option to do that. And the only way you're going to do that is getting your stuff not necessarily off of Amazon, keep it on Amazon, but uh, publish a revised edition of said book on one of those platforms too. This is another conversation that we can keep coming back to, or one of those recurring things. If there's interest for it, if you want to know more, but the indie community does a pretty good job of kind of informing, I think, everybody on this at some point, either flat out directly or just in passing when they say this is how I got to here. Yeah, which I guess is kind of saying the same thing. Um, but yes, if you can afford to get off Amazon exclusively. Ebooks is a different thing. Keep it on Amazon. Um, there's all kinds of people that'll tell you exactly why, and I think it's also a no-brainer. Kindle is untouchable. I don't know another word for that. Anybody thinks ebook, they go right to Kindle. Keep them on there. Yeah, I could keep going on with this, but I don't want to make this video super long because I still have one more thing I want to get to. And another reason why it took so long to actually come out with, a longer format video, which I personally enjoy doing. But one last point on the I forgot. Maybe we'll come back to that in another video, maybe. But now this next part is, oh, yeah. Okay, 30 seconds of time you'll never get back. Part of the reason that there was silence on the channel was getting all those books revised on Ingram Spark. So everything that I had on Amazon, revised now on Ingram Spark, or almost done with that, to get them out into the mass market, which takes a while because there is a lot of things you need to learn. And one of them is that cover template generator, specifically through Ingram Spark. Other platforms, I'm sure, have the same mechanic or tool. But if you don't know how to use Canva, learn. Yeah, that was a weak course in itself for me. I am not by any means technically gifted when it comes to computers. So I'm kind of teaching myself all this as I go. But that kind of bleeds then into the AI assist thing, and was my book, are my books AI free? No. I use them to edit. I use Grammar Checker. The covers I generate myself. I make them. Everything goes through Canva to make sure that the templates are all right. So there's AI usage in all of them. Never to write them. And that's the distinction that we made in the video. And I'm sure most of you, if not all, could say the same thing on some level. And that's really what this is all about. But then getting to that final point about I did spend an inordinate amount of time working with AI to find out if the stupid thing could actually write. And it can't. There are things, if fed uh, a fully detailed prompt, that'll get you a few paragraphs, and you have to spend an inordinate amount of time um, feeding it exactly what you would write anyway, just to get mediocre results. So, in my opinion, to state that, well, why would you write with AI? No, why would you let AI write for you if you're having to do all this work anyway to get the thing that you want? You'd spend a lot less time just firing up Word or actually writing a damn thing in a notebook. Um, I did do 2 fanfic stories, Star Wars. You'll find them on the other channel. Collab attachment in the video things below. Hoth Below Zero and Dead Reckoning. Now, these are just, I use the fanfics a lot for experimentation. And although the stories are interesting, they're not good. They're interesting and okay, I guess, decent. If you're interested, just go check them out. I'm not proud of them. I don't think that they're good, but that were tests with AI to see what its limitations were. And yeah, these things can write 200,000 words if you are constantly prompting it, even designing outlines and stuff. And that's a lot of what I've been doing the last few months. And all of the experimentation I did proves to me that AI is not going to write at the same caliber as a human. You have emotions that AI will never be able to learn. Thus, it won't ever be able to translate on the page. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. Um, like even trying to run moderately decent prose through humanization. There is one more point I want to get to. It leaves so much to be desired in that my time is precious because I still do have a family, a wife, and a full time job that I don't want to be screwing around yelling at my computer. I would much rather just get my thoughts out on the paper, make it into a story, and feed that into Word. And that's where the Grammarly thing comes up. Um, but I think you got the point there, and why the channel hiatus, or why the quietness has been around for a few months. There's been a lot of stuff on the side, and a lot of that is to try to help everybody, help you guys, find those answers with the AI conversations, and then to get the ball rolling on them. The Grammarly thing, and I'll end with this, was something that I learned only recently. I use Grammarly as an add-on in Word to help me with phrasing, to make sure that my commas are in the right place, um, that I'm that my grammar's right. I mean, that's what it's for. Then to realize that if you actually use the app, that thing's dangerous. And the reason I say that is because you can create your own voice in there, have the humanizer adapt to whatever prompt you give it, and then the prose that it gives you back, or suggestions for corrections, come back in a very eerily similar way that you might actually do it yourself. And I don't know. If these tools are going to get any stronger, that kind of stuff scares me. And it should scare you too. But that's why we're having these conversations, and why they need to continue. But at any rate, we're going to get out of the video without me saying that at least once. Wherever you stand, please let me know. Subscribe, like, I appreciate that. But engage. The comments are great, like I said, but make your own video. Tag the channel, collab, I'll consent. Let's keep this thing going. And share this. Share your work. Share your videos with other people too. Hell, share them with the channel. I got no problem reposting stuff, especially when it's pertinent and it's things people can learn from. I mean, we're all here to help each other. We're all here to have each other's backs when they need it. And in this day and age, you know, where you can't even use an M dash without somebody calling it AI generated, we all have a stake in the game. And right now, the conversation is our way of stepping up to meeting the moment. And we all have to do it together. So with that, I'll catch you in the next video.